All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. In episode one, I talked about what you should do as the head of HR. Because whether you are the head of HR or you're the organization's chief legal counsel, you should learn how to tell the truth and document and do your due diligence. So, in the last episode, I talked about my former boss, Kim. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about their chief legal counsel. I don't think she's there anymore, but she might still have ties. I don't really know. And because the Phoenix Suns continue to be unserious and have spread all kinds of lies and rumors and gossip about me, which would be libel and slander, let's talk about it. So if you ever spend the money to go to law school and put yourself through law school, you should understand legal proceedings. Now, if someone were to file a complaint against you with the EEOC and or the Attorney General's office, you should do what? Well, without myself having a law degree, I could tell you what you shouldn't do is sit down and create a bunch of lies about someone to take to real legal proceedings. What you should do is review files, HR files, annual reviews, quarterly reviews, emails, and you should put together the truth about why that person was fired. And you should take that truth to the body, such as the Attorney General's office or the EEOC. And you should legally be able to state why this person was terminated and factual things to justify why that person was terminated. But instead of doing that, Melissa took the time out of her day to sit down with my former boss, who we'll call Kimberly C. And they created all kinds of lies about me. One, including there was an organization-wide event that I myself planned by myself with no help amongst the Arizona Cardinals, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Phoenix Suns and Mercury, and of course the Arizona Coyotes, the professional hockey team out here. And on MLK, if you know anything about Martin Luther King, he was all about giving back. So I put together a day of service, an MLK day of service, where employees from all of the professional sports teams came together and volunteered at several different locations. It was like 3 years ago, so forgive me, but I believe it was 7 different locations. And in those 7 different locations, we planted trees. There were employees that went to schools. There was like 5 or 6 different schools that we worked with in the Roosevelt School District. And the employees planted gardens, read to the younger students. Some people went to a park and painted the park, cleaned up a park. We did all kinds of great things to give back in the community. But when my complaint got to the Attorney General's office, all of a sudden, that day turned into a day that was poorly ran, and I was allegedly screaming and yelling and cussing in front of students, principals, and community leaders. I was shocked to see that. I couldn't believe these people actually put that in writing. But again, as you are learning, if you're watching my videos, they did all of this stuff because the Attorney General's office didn't really investigate my claim, so they didn't know what documentation I had. So let me tell you what documentation I had. One, I had a handwritten note from a senior vice president who, after that day, he wrote me a hand note on cardstock with his name on it. And he told me about how wonderful that day was and how inspired he was on that day. There were emails sent back and forth about, like, when are we going to get to do stuff like that again? And people really enjoyed that day. I received thank yous and all kinds of stuff from students at those different schools, which I still have. Thank you. And I went back a couple of weeks later to have a pizza party with Monet. R.I.P. Monet, we love you. But yeah, when this got to the Attorney General's office, all of a sudden that day was a poorly ran day that I was yelling, cussing, and screaming in front of community members. That is wild. And as the chief legal counsel for an organization that's a professional basketball team, you should do better than lying and putting things like that, slanderous lies, in writing just what hurt my feelings. So if you ever get to that pinnacle of your career, know that it is best to tell the truth.